Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Rodan. And today, as you can see, I'm still continuing my Disney movie marathon, where I'll be talking about the movies, of course, TV shows, well, not often anyway, merchandising, theme parks, I don't know, whatever the case may be. If it's related to Disney in any shape or form, then yes, of course, there's a good chance of talking about it. So let's just get straight to the point, shall we? And thank you for watching ahead of time, of course. I know the studio is famous for princesses, and I do believe that they should continue this kind of a thing, of course. Yeah, I actually don't mind watching these type of movies, even though they're more fantasy based. If anything, I know fantasy isn't really my cup of tea when it comes to this genre of film, I guess. But I'll watch anything if it's just a good story. That's all that matters. I mean, okay, to be a bit more specific, I know. Over the years, I know the company has been under scrutiny because remakes, nothing but remakes. It's been roughly 10 years, or maybe a little bit more than that. They've been producing nothing but remakes. So you think the directors of these movies would have, I guess, crafted the films a lot better. But no, it looks like these types of remakes just progressively got worse and worse. So what I'm talking about here is kind of I guess as a way to counter that, at least because if what I would have done if I were the director of these movies, yes, I wouldn't mind doing the hand drawn animation, but at the very least, do the CGI, but make it look like it was hand drawn. Okay, yes, very similar in style how Wish was done. It's of course done in CGI, but it was intentionally done to look hand drawn. I'm guessing because and I do mean many Disney fans absolutely hated a lot of these movies done in CGI, which I think is stupid in itself, but whatever. That's not the point of the video. But you could do something like this, since a lot of people want this art style to come back, even though the film flopped on the box office. You can be done in that way. So again, let's just get into it, I guess. So here we go. Oh yeah. Okay, taking some inspiration from what Montel did with Barbie in that one Barbie film where she was in outer space, and yes, there was a princess in that one. In case you were wondering. Anyway, yeah, the setting itself could be in a distant galaxy where planets are basically kingdoms. Like each planet is in itself a kingdom, and the stars are like this guiding lights for travelers, so to speak. And maybe the prince could be, let's say, Luna, Princess Luna, a curious and brave young royal from this one planet. I mean, you can make it your own planet name. It doesn't necessarily be based on the existing planets, by the way. But the one she lives in is known for this crystal-like, I guess, landscapes. I guess she wants to, of course, dream exploring beyond her own home world and discover new civilizations. When her planet faces an independent threat from a dark cosmic force, she embarks on this journey through space. Along the way, she would encounter, let's say, I don't know, aliens, allies, learns about different cultures, and uncovers secrets about her own destiny. So she also discovers, let's say, that true leadership involves understanding, empathy, and of course working together, even if you're different from the other person. So yes, the story itself could be emphasizing on exploration, unity, and courage. Of course, so there's that, of course. And since you can be like space, then you can use that to your advantage. All right, let's do a Western one real quick. And this one, it takes place in the vast open frontier town of somewhere in the American West during the late 1800s, with the lots of flowers and whatnot, of course, rugged mountains, and of course a bustling frontier, and with the, of course, banks and whatnot. Obviously, Princess Rose, yeah, let's call her that. A spirited young royal who has run away from her palace to experience the life beyond the castle walls, I guess. She's resourceful, brave, and compassionate, of course. And of course, in this case, she wants to help. Let's say maybe the town is being run by outlaws, and she has to be a good cowgirl and fight them, of course, some kind of way, of course. Of course, in typical Disney fashion, yes, she's going to have a sidekick character. It's going to be maybe a horse, a cow, whatever. That's going to be like running theme in this. They're going to have all kinds of sidekicks, of course. But of course, you can explore the themes of, she's going to disguise herself as a frontier girl, maybe, to escape the constraints of rural life, and of course, learn about everyday people. So that's something, of course. And yes, of course, like I said, she has to be really resourceful. So there's that, I reckon. All right, taking some inspiration from movies like, say, The Princess and the Frog, Mulan, and Pocahontas, and maybe to some extent, yes, even the Frozen movies 1 and 2, I guess. So anyway, let's have a setting in like, okay, maybe quite a while ago, but not that far back. Let's just say a historical kind of thing. All right, and the Ottoman Empire kind of a thing. He has been through a princess setting in that kind of a thing. Now that the Ottoman Empire was a vast and influential state that existed roughly around up until 1922, I believe, and it was founded by this one individual and grew over centuries to, of course, have this much taking over much of this Eastern Europe, I guess you can say, and West Asia and East Asia, if I remember correctly. At the time when World War One was starting to rear its head around that time, and they were really overstretching their power. Let's put it that way. When it comes to that kind of government power. But anyway, yes, that was going to be a thing here. Obviously, when it comes to this kind of thing, and yes, even North Africa was going to have its kind of a thing going on here because they reached over there the Ottoman Empire at its height during the 16th and 17th centuries under the rulers. Let's just say the empire wore a major political, military, and cultural power. So the political structure was really strong. It was an absolute ruler sort of thing. So the princess character is of course going to be this royal princess, deeply connected to her culture, roots, and yeah, of course, tradition. She's intelligent, curious, and of course, eager to learn about her heritage. However, she knows that there's something that's not quite right, which of course is going to cause her to rebel against this type of government and start anew. And of course, got some allies because she's going to definitely need some extra help, given how strong the government of this kind of thing was at the time. So it's kind of which, of course, religiously speaking, this kind of thing had occurred to some extent anyway. So it's not that much far fetched. The Ottomans, of course, when it comes to the military, they were definitely really renowned for their military powers and whatnot. So yes, this can be really tough. Basically, what's going on here is there's going to be a three-way battle kind of a thing because if you consider what the Russians, well, at the time anyway, were trying to do, so it was a revolution against another revolution within the Ottoman Empire. Because the Ottoman Empire didn't like what either side was doing, and didn't like what her was doing, because the Russians were trying to help only the Christians out within a certain time period, and nothing, and no one else. And they didn't like what she was doing, and didn't like what either side was doing. So of course, and I guess depending on the timeline to get some specifics, I guess. Okay, maybe a four-way battle kind of a thing if you consider what Turkey was trying to do because they were trying to do their own independent thing at the time, of course. So yeah, if this sounds like a chaotic mess, because it's basically a free for all, and that's because it sounds just like that. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, let's go for like an Egyptian kind of a thing, just to mix up a little bit, because the time period is going to be all over the place, folks. I'm not sticking to one thing here. This one's gonna be named Elena. Elena lives in this sheltered life at this royal palace, unaware of her true heritage. She has like these strange dreams of stars and fire, and of course displays faint magical abilities that she can't control. So we're going like a mythological kind of a thing here. The kingdom celebrates its rich history, of course, but Elena soon discovers that something ain't quite right. So yeah, she feels disconnected from her true self, so to speak. So let's put it that way, of course. And yes, something will go astray, obviously. In some ways, she instinctively knows that something ain't quite right. So Elena, feeling this deep pull to her destiny, she secretly ventures off into this legendary temple of stars, where she learns that she's the reincarnated goddess of light and renewal, destined to restore balance, so to speak. So, okay, this one is going to sound more fantastical in some ways. Sure, with the magical abilities and whatnot. Sure. So she embarks on this journey to find out like this specific crystal. This specific crystal could have some kind of meaning or whatnot. This artifact that's said to amplify her, I guess, divine powers. Along the way, she meets with creatures and whatnot. Of course, she's gonna have psychic characters and whatnot. So there's that. Okay, taking some inspiration from Lilo and Stitch, original one anyway. Let's throw in some martial arts and have it take place in a more modern day era, I guess you can say. And let's just say that, let me see here, the main character is named Mei Fang, just call her that. She's a princess who lives in the royal palace, but secretly trains in kung fu, inspired by her late father, a legendary martial artist. She struggles with her self doubt and worries about failing her family's legacy and whatnot. So one day, however, she decides to take a stroll. Let's just say it takes place in Hawaii, okay? But she decides to take a stroll in Hawaii and comes across this woman, just like the older sister in the on Stitch, and sees that she's struggling to keep her job up, and just decides to maybe order some food, some drinks, or whatever, and quickly becomes friends with her. And there's a competing restaurants and whatnot that doesn't like her, of course. And let's just say that's when the martial arts scenes, kung fu, and all that would take place in. And let's just say things just get crazy from that point onward. And it's gotta have the martial arts scenes happen for a reason, folks. So it seems like a decent enough reason to do. Want to protect our restaurant and whatnot, and its employees has been a plot setting for martial art films anyway. So it's that could be a good way to continue that kind of trend to begin with. So I don't know, whatever. That's something to think about, I suppose. Well, anyway, aside from that, whatever. Okay, again, taking some inspiration from source material, I guess in this case. Because look at this book right here. It's a memoir that point goes into the author's struggle with depression and mental health, kind of like putting an idea, providing some kind of insight into the emotional and psychological toll here, which I know is a touchy subject matter, but I think with a skillful scriptwriter, you gotta be done craftfully without, I guess, trivializing it in some ways. You have a princess movie kind of like this to some extent, in this peaceful kingdom. Let's just say this character is named Eliza. Eliza wants to better herself in her kingdom, of course, a place of beauty and light. But well, shadows occasionally represent struggles of a mental struggle and whatnot to be a part of it. Of course, yes, it's gonna be the whole fact where she has to be careful what she will do and whatnot. But to complicate things even further, let's say there's a fire-breathing dragon. A fire-breathing dragon has occasionally come here and there to cause havoc. This is causing more stress. So there's an internal battle and an external battle going on simultaneously throughout the entire thing. Of course, and we can see that our main character is beloved by her people, but feels increasingly isolated, withdrawn from activities she once enjoyed. She experiences this persistent feelings of loneliness, exhaustion, and of course, self doubt throughout all this. She hides behind a brave face, so to speak. I mean, so is that. So it could be interesting if it's done correctly. So, okay, instead of just remaking The Little Mermaid, let's just have more of an original tale, I guess you can say. Because why not? Might as well. Because what I would say, okay, there's a princess of the sea, some kind of underwater kingdom, a story about a princess who's a mermaid who lives in a some kind of realm exploring some kind of environmental conversations, discovery, and identity. Maybe this princess who dreams of exploring the ocean surface floor but must balance her responsibility and her curiosity, of course. Maybe have some kind of environmental kind of thing because people keep polluting the waters and whatnot. Maybe sneak that in somehow. And people being, arrogant and whatnot and being really mean. I'm not going to be a part of the story some kind of way. So you can have your conflict and whatnot. All right, here's another one for, let's say there's a princess who loves science. She loves to, let's say, wants to discover medication and whatnot. And of course, she has to deal with her responsibilities as a princess when it comes to politics and whatnot. Yes, of course, there's that. But the conflict comes in because, let's say, inventing or doing something when it comes to science, stuff like that, when it comes to math stuff and whatnot, it's not expected of princes to do. So a lot of people out there are not really accepting of that because it's not princess stuff to do. And then to make this even more crazier, maybe there's a mad scientist, like a crazy scientist out there that wants to steal a formula that she has, and maybe that could be a way we can stick a horror element. Yeah, a horror, spooky stuff. We can stick a horror element in there, folks. Oh, definitely. Something spooky, something scary, and whatnot. A horror element, obviously. We can stick that in there and whatnot. So that can be a part of it, of course. And yeah, and he somehow gets him some kind of serum and maybe creates a creature, and this monster comes to life. And then the princess will have to find a way to deal with that, and it becomes a real big problem for the villagers and whatnot. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something here, folks. Whatever. All right. Yep, mermaids. Another mermaid thing. But let's just say there would be two mermaids, both being sisters. But the twist here is that one of them could be Myra. Myra is a kind of curious mermaid. However, the twist is that she's intersex. And of course, that could be there could be a cause some kind of conflict and whatnot. Not everybody's accepting of that, of course. And maybe the evil creature could be a giant evil serpent, a serpent with multiple heads. And yeah, it would be up to her to stop this crazy thing. Side note, folks, before anyone says anything, I know when it comes to people who are intersex, I know there's multiple different variants of that. And maybe the story could play into that some kind of way to I guess educate the viewers who's watching this, I guess. But anyway, there's like this evil serpent that's causing chaos in this kind of kingdom or whatnot. I don't know. I'm just trying to have some kind of like spectacle, craziness going on and whatnot. But anyway, I think this could be make a good story if done correctly. All right, for the last one, I think I'll make it be about a beach. Yeah, let's focus on the beach for a bit. Yeah, there's this kingdom called the Sandy Shores with these golden beaches, of course, great waters and whatnot, and great sea life, forests, and whatnot. So, Princess Sakura is a lively and kind, curious girl who loves spending time by the ocean, exploring the tides and whatnot, the pool areas, and collecting sea shells and dreaming of eventually beyond her kingdom. So, yes, she does feel this deep connection to the ocean, often whispering along to the sea creatures and wandering along the seashore. She dreams of discovering secrets hidden in the depths of the water and wishes to understand. However, let's just say that there's this giant octopus kind of a thing. This octopus wants to pretty much cause havoc because it's an evil creature and doesn't like the goodness of men. Does not like the goodness of women. And just want to cause havoc and whatnot. So it'd be up to the princess to find a way to stop this creature because this creature is causing havoc among the beaches and causing trouble for the people who are in the ocean and whatnot. And yeah, of course, she has to talk to the king and the queen to make some kind of call some kind of order to stop this craziness from happening, of course, and whatnot. And the humans are just trying to enjoy themselves at the beach and nothing more. They're just trying to enjoy themselves, but there's this crazy thing out there just causing havoc and whatnot, which just unfortunately complicates everything, of course. But anyway, folks, that'll be it. I'm sure I could think of some other stuff, but that's about it. This is my way just trying to think about a different type of stories that Disney could have used. It's just instead of just remaking everything. Anyway, that'll be it. Thanks for watching, folks. See ya later.